The Mercedes McLaren SLR has always been one of my favorite vehicles. The SLR has a crazy amount of cool features. Check out the hood, for instance. Obviously, we've got an extremely long hood. It's got a 5.4 liter supercharged V8 that makes 617 horsepower and 580 pound-feet of torque. And because the engine is mounted behind the front wheels, it makes the hood extremely long. So watch, you pull this lever down here, like any normal car, of course. But now, instead of one latch, you've got two, one on each side here. Pull those. The hood comes forward first. How's that for a cool looking hood? And then you lift it up like a clamshell Dodge Viper hood. The craziest part about this hood is that it costs $75,000. Yeah, this hood costs as much as a BMW M4. Hopefully we don't break it. The next insane feature has to be the doors. Of course, they are butterfly doors, but what's cooler than that is unlock the car, you press this button here, there's no door handle, so it seamlessly flows into the car, which is really neat because so does the McLaren 12C and future McLarens, so some design language cues there. Click the button and the doors raise like that. They should have done this with the Mercedes SLS. That would have been so much cooler. You hop into the car and you simply pull the handle to close the door. Now, once you're on the inside, come over here and check this out. There's a little release lever right here. You pull that up and the door, spring-loaded, shoots up. Let me close this and then I'll open it. Super easy to get in and out of. The next insane feature of the SLR is the start button. For some odd reason, you have to stick this Acura quality key into the key holder, turn it all the way, then flip up this very satisfying latch here, put your hand on, and detonate a nuclear warhead. I've started this car up so many times, I did not plan to laugh there, and it just gets me every time. This sounds incredible. The rear wing of the SLR is actually an active air brake. When you get up to about highway speeds, this deploys at 10 degrees. On the 722 edition, 15, if that makes a difference. You can also manually set it if for whatever reason you decide, wow, I'd really like my wing to be at 30 degrees right now. In the cabin, push the little lever upwards and it deploys to 30 degrees. Look at the flick of that wrist. Look at the flick of that wrist. Look at the... Or 35 in the 722. Now, under extremely hard braking, this can actually go up to 60 degrees to help slow the car down further. Another absolutely insane feature about the Mercedes McLaren SLR is the exhaust. It's mounted out of the sides. It's a quad exhaust. You got two pipes on each side. This is so much cooler than having it come out of the rear, especially next to all of these air blades. Let's go ahead. I mean, there's not much to say about the exhaust other than the positioning, but the exhaust has a lot to say for itself in terms of how damn good it sounds. This car actually has a resonator delete, which, well, you'll hear for yourself. You know the phrase, you gotta pay to play? Well, that couldn't be a more perfect representation of the McLaren SLR in terms of service cost. So there's the A service and the B service, rotates every other year. The A service, 25-hour job, $5,500. Expensive, not terrible. Now the B service, $7,500 every other year. Every 4 years, you have to get the spark plugs replaced. Standard spark plugs, how much could they possibly cost? Well, you have to pull the motor to replace the spark plugs. Thankfully, you get a new fuel filter. It's a 60-hour job, and they charge you $20,000 for it. 20 grand to replace your spark plugs. Are you kidding me? All right, well, it couldn't get any worse than that, right? Well, you would be wrong. How about the brakes? How much does it cost to service these kind of new to the world carbon ceramic brakes? Let's start with the pads. Brake pads, people are familiar with prices of changing them. A couple $100 in the front, couple hundred in the rear. $12,000 to replace the brake pads. All right, so how much does an entire brake job cost? Pads, rotors? $43,000. 43 grand to fix your brakes. Unbelievable. Now people may argue, hey, it's a $450,000 car, what do you expect? Of course it's going to be expensive. But these are astronomical prices that most cars you don't have to deal with. $20,000 to replace the spark plugs. You don't have to pay that in an Aventador when you're spending the same amount of money. The next insane feature of the Mercedes-McLaren SLR is actually an addition of the SLR, called the SLR Stirling Moss. Now that was made to commemorate the famous racing driver Stirling Moss, who won Mille Miglia in 1955 in a 300 SLR. Now that car is probably the coolest vehicle Mercedes has ever made. It takes the already beautiful looking SLR, cuts the roof off, removes the windshield, has new styling in the side as well as the front, and it bumps the power up to 640 horsepower instead of 617. The top speed also goes all the way up to 217 miles an hour, and you can do that with no roof or windshield. Just obviously get a helmet, otherwise that'd be an adventure in itself. Those were $1.1 million when new in 2009. How much do they cost now? It's gotta be less than that, right? Nope, $3 million. Honestly though, that's a collectible car. They only made 75 of them. Those 75 are only offered to current Mercedes-McLaren SLR customers, rightfully so. Another crazy part about the McLaren SLR is how much it costs. You see, if you want a higher mileage one, 2004, maybe in black, the silver color actually garners more money because it's the original color that they released the concept car in. There's a couple for sale for just under $200,000. But if you want a lower mileage example, that one had 35,000 miles, which is quite a lot considering how much you have to go through during each service. This one has 4,500 miles, making it worth about $440,000. You want a lower than that mileage one that's perhaps a roadster, about 500 grand. A 722 edition, 650 to 700 grand, and then the Stirling Mosses at well over $2 million. So really, as long as you have over 190 grand, there's an SLR out there for everyone. The craziest feature of the McLaren SLR, however, has to be the driving experience. We have this massive 5.4 liter supercharged V8 in front of us, making 617 horsepower and 580 pound-feet of torque. For those with the 722 edition, now a lot of people think 722 actually refers to the horsepower. Well, it doesn't. It refers to the start time of 7:22 a.m. in 1955 during the Mille Miglia race. That car produces 640 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. The vehicle is rear-wheel drive. It's got somewhat of an extremely antiquated 5-speed automatic transmission. You'd expect, just looking at it, that this would be more of a luxury cruiser, a GT car. But when you get in it, it is nothing like that whatsoever. The suspension is harsh. The entire car vibrates. Now, this does have a resonator delete, so it's a little bit louder, but it is so raw. Oh, and it's actually a little bit terrifying to drive, but in a good way, in a really good way. The steering feel is fantastic. It's really heavy. You got that lovely hydraulic feel that you no longer get in modern day cars. You're looking out over a massive hood, so it's a little bit daunting, although it's not all that intimidating to drive. The paddles aren't even paddles, they're buttons mounted on the steering wheel. They feel nice though, and they're located at the perfect position of 9 and 3, and you can choose which finger to activate them. We've got different transmission modes, comfort, manual, and sport. If you put in a manual, you've got 3 different modes for the shift settings. Obviously, we'll go to the fastest shift setting, but honestly, it's not all that responsive. The downshifts cause a serious amount of engine braking, which is nice, but it just denied me a shift there. It wouldn't even go. The brake is one of the most interesting parts of the car. The top 10% of the brake pedal does absolutely nothing. And once you push harder, the resistance is crazy. It feels like pushing the pedal on a race car. Those carbon ceramics, it takes a lot of force to get the car to slow down, but once you push the brake, this car goes from 60 to 0 miles an hour in 103 feet, which is stellar performance for 2004, and even incredible performance for nowadays statistics. 0 to 60 miles an hour happens in 3.3 seconds, which for a rear-wheel drive car is quite impressive. The quarter mile happens in 11.2 at 130 miles an hour, which is an absurdly high trap speed for an 11.2 second quarter mile. Oh my God. The engine note is it's just out of this world. Oh! You'd think that the car wouldn't handle well based on just the size, but they used a lot of carbon fiber reinforced plastic in the SLR to keep the weight down. It's 3,850 pounds, which actually isn't all that light. They've got so many luxurious features in here and sumptuous leather everywhere. Oh! This thing is awesome! Not many cars put a smile on my face like that. Oh my God. You hear the supercharger whine a tiny bit depending upon your RPMs, especially at lower RPMs, but it's mainly that burbling V8 exhaust coming right out by your feet. I love the location of that exhaust. It just makes it louder in the cabin, and it looks so damn cool. The last insane feature about the Mercedes-McLaren SLR is what MSO at McLaren will do to the car if you have money, and I mean a lot of money. So for $141,000, you can take your SLR. Now only 25 people have been brave enough or rich enough to do this. You can take it, you can get new suspension, you get new steering, higher downforce, aesthetic appearance upgrade. It actually looks really good. New set of wheels, some little tweaks to the body design. I do find it cool that McLaren is willing to work on the car and upgrade it. This would be very awesome with a new 9-speed transmission in it. I think really the biggest downside of the SLR is the transmission. They went for a 5-speed for durability reasons, although considering the service prices, I don't really think they care at all about durability. But a 7-speed DCT or a new 8 or 9-speed transmission, this thing would be even a little bit better. But because only 25 people had McLaren redo their SLRs, a dealership in Germany tried to capitalize on that, thinking, hey, the McLaren F1s, they cost so much money, maybe we can get an absurd amount for our SLR. They listed it for $11 million. 11 million. Sorry, this car is really cool, but it ain't worth $11 million, not even close. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I had a little bit of a blast filming this. Special thanks to Symbolo X Wheel Company that makes some pretty awesome stuff for providing the car. They own this, and man, are you a lucky group of guys. Cool group of guys too, so check them out. Today is of course Sunday, which means I'm announcing the winner of the GoPro. I'll have their username here because I'm actually filming this before Sunday, so I don't know the winner yet. I haven't picked. But dude or girl, congratulations for winning the GoPro. I'll send you a message, email, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. I'll get your information and I'll get it shipped out ASAP. Congrats. If you didn't win, I'm sorry. There will be plenty of more opportunities. I look forward to seeing you guys next video.